There she is, Tobruk.
Yeah, the sea somewhere ahead.
Yeah.
Tell me it's an important harbour at Tobruk. That means seawater to swim in.
Now, this is where we'll be, matey. Right out here with a barbed wire, defending those anti-tank ditches that the Italians were kind enough to build.
Citation. Presenting authentic stories of heroism and gallantry taken from the histories of war. The story of NX 15705, John Hurst Edmondson, corporal of the 2nd 17th Battalion. Our first soldier of the 1939-45 war to be awarded the Victoria Cross. That was the sound of Tobruk early in 1941. When the 6th Australian Division was withdrawn from Cyrenaica for the Greek campaign, it was replaced by the 9th Division. As the Axis forces, led by German Lieutenant General Rommel, advanced across the desert after taking El Agheila on March 24th, 1941, the British commander decided that Tobruk should be held, to deny the use of the port to the enemy, to allow it to be used as a base to harass the enemy, and later to become an operational base. So began a siege that was to last for 242 days. The perimeter of 30 miles had to be held, and to hold it were 8,000 British troops, about 500 Indians, and 14,000 Australians of the 9th Division. And the story of the siege of Tobruk will always be linked with the story of the Australian soldier from Liverpool, New South Wales, Corporal John Edmondson.
Well, you men have been lucky enough to be enlisted in the 2nd 17th Battalion. I want you to remember that in the First World War, the original 17th Battalion built up a mighty tradition. You're wearing the same black over green colour patch, and I expect you to always be proud of it. When you finish your training here in Australia and sail for overseas, remember that the old soldiers of the 1st 17th Battalion are watching you, jealous of their reputation.
And one of those youngsters who trained at Ingleburn, New South Wales, was John Edmondson from Liverpool, who wore the Rising Sun collar badges, the metal Australias on his shoulder, that his uncle, an original member of the 17th in World War I, had worn. Young Jack Edmondson was steeped in the great tradition of his battalion, and he was determined not to let it down.
There she is, Tobruk. The sea somewhere ahead.
Yeah.
Tell me it's an important harbour at Tobruk. No, that means seawater to swim in.
Now, this is where we'll be, matey. Right out here with a barbed wire, defending these anti-tank ditches that the Italians were kind enough to build.
And that soldier was right. The harbour was the heart of Tobruk. But the outer perimeter was the defence line where the Australians were to take up position to face the onslaught of a confident enemy.
Yeah, there's something big brewing up. Look at those German tanks moving into position out there in the desert.
No anti-tank guns barking at him like a terrier pup. All bark and no teeth.
Yeah, teeth, but not big enough. Those are the German Panzerkampfwagen.
Big word for a digger, mate.
Oh, I just keep my ears open at briefing. Those are 22-ton medium tanks. Plenty of armour on them, and 75mm guns mounted.
Good choice stopping them.
Yeah, we got these anti-tank guns. We got 25-pounders backing us up. And if the tanks get past them, we got grenades and the bayonet.
Yeah, that'll frighten the Germans if they hear it.
Yeah, you take my word for it, Tom. By the time they've mixed it with us, they'll be frightened every time they hear the 2nd 17th Battalion's facing them.
And that was the way it was to be. It was Easter Sunday, April the 13th, a hot, dry, and dusty day out on the perimeter, as the enemy's big build-up continued before the eyes of the watching Australians. When the sun was low on the horizon, laying a heavy, glaring red haze across the desert. The enemy rose from the ground about 1,000 yards out, and in a single line, with men spaced about 3 yards apart, they started running in towards the perimeter in 50-yard dashes. It was obvious they were trying to reach the wire before dark, and the Australians of the 2nd 17th were determined to stop them. The Brens and rifles searched out the advancing enemy.
Yeah, it's no use firing now. It's too dark to see them.
We held them anyway. Stopped them trying to get to the wire before dark.
Yeah.
Struth, she gets dark all of a sudden. What do you reckon the Germans are doing out there, Ted?
Yeah, regrouping. Now listen. They're coming again. Coming again. Let them have it!
If I could only see where to fire!
The Germans had attacked again, making another attempt, this time under darkness to reach the perimeter wire. They attacked in strength, and by 11 o'clock that night, about 30 Germans had established themselves within the barbed wire and brought up 2 field guns, some mortars and light machine guns, and there they set out to establish a bridgehead through the wire so the 22-ton tanks could follow. The Germans had their hands at the throat of the strategic Tobruk. This breakthrough could spell the end.
Corporal Edmondson. Sir? This is what we're going to do. Those Germans inside the wire have to go. Okay, sir. The only way to get them out is with a bayonet. This is what we do. We go clear off the rest of the platoon. We head out there into the dark while the platoon stays here and belts away at them to keep them occupied. When we're set up for the bayonet charge, the platoon stops firing and we go into them. What do you think? It's worth a try, sir. We have to get them out. If they hold that position, it could develop into the major breakthrough the Germans want. Okay, let's go.
So Lieutenant McKell, Corporal Edmondson, and his section moved off into the darkness for their surprise bayonet attack onto the German bridgehead.
Keep close to the ground. A lot of reflections out here, sir. Yes. Platoon's keeping them occupied. But keep well down. We aren't ready to go in yet. Pass the word back. Keep down. Keep down, men. Well down. Pass the word back to keep. So far, so good. Not close enough yet, sir. Ah, too much open ground between them and us yet. Closer yet. Closer. Right around the flank now. Made a 3/4 circle. Still not close enough.
Platoon's doing a good job keeping them occupied, sir.
We've been sighted. They're onto us. Up and at them!
So this gallant few of the 2nd 17th, led by Lieutenant McKell, rose from the desert and charged towards the enemy with bayonets at the ready. And the enemy met them with furious fire.
Edmondson, are you all right, Edmondson? I'm okay, sir. I'll be Jake. Keep at them, men. In with a bayonet. They're scattering. The Germans are scattering. Into them now.
The small band charged into the strong German position. Corporal Edmondson was hit twice, in the neck, then in the stomach as he ran towards the enemy position. But though he faltered, he kept on going until he closed with the enemy. As the Germans scattered before the charge, he chased them and killed at least 2 with the bayonet. It was a fierce fight there on the German bridgehead through the wire, and Lieutenant McKell found himself in serious trouble. He was grasped around the legs by one German as he thrust the bayonet into another. Other Germans ran to kill him when Corporal Edmondson heard his commander's call for assistance and charged with bayonet at the ready.
Hold on, sir. I'll handle him. Drop that. That. All right, Jack. Right, sir. Right.
So Corporal Edmondson came to his officer's assistance and bayoneted 2 of the Germans, and then drove the rest off. And his commander killed at least half a dozen of the enemy and took 1 prisoner. The remainder fled.
Well, there they go, Corporal. Nice work.
Left the guns behind, sir. Teach them to come in.
You all right? You've been hit bad.
Hold up.
Give us a hand here, you men. Corporal Edmondson's on the point of collapse.
Hold on, man. Hold on.
But Corporal John Hurst Edmondson of the 2nd 17th Australian Infantry Battalion had given his life in that desperate attack that finally meant so much to the Australians holding besieged Tobruk. For his bravery, he was posthumously awarded the Victoria Cross. Part of the citation said, "Throughout the operation, his bravery and resolution were outstanding. His was the spirit of the defense of Tobruk." Perhaps the most striking tribute to that defense was written by a German tank commander. He wrote a document which subsequently fell into our hands. It read, "The German intelligence had given out that the enemy was exhausted, that his artillery was extremely weak, and his morale had become very low. The German regiment went into the attack with unbendable will, determined at all costs to break through the enemy and take Tobruk. Only the vastly superior enemy, the frightful lack of any supporting weapons, caused the tank regiment to fail in its task." That was the German report. In fact, the Germans suffered a total loss of 50% there on the perimeter. It was the first setback that such a German attack had suffered in 20 months of war. That, too, is a tribute to the valor of the young Australian corporal who carried on the tradition of an Australian battalion. Citation. These stories are authentic. The program was produced by AWA and directed by Donald Crosby for Army Public Relations.